Hello there, welcome and thank you for joining me on Deliberate Christian Life again. My name is Dominino. Today we're going to be talking about one of the questions that Christians ask. The question is, what does God eat? What does God eat? Have you ever taken a moment to consider and just, think about it? What does God eat? We put out this question on the Deliberate Christian Life Facebook group to just get a feel of what Christians think God eat. And we got quite a number of responses. Thank you to everyone who participated. So a number of people said praise, some said thanksgiving, others said worship, and I guess we can just classify all of that into one category. But then we got just one other response that was totally different from all of that. And he said, to do the will of God and to finish strong. He was quoting from the book of John, chapter 4, verse 34. So now, you who are watching me, have you ever thought about it? I'm asking, what does God eat? I'll be back with an answer. Welcome back. So, what does God eat? From Genesis to Revelation, there is actually no verse or book in the Bible that states categorically what God eats. No verse in the Bible says God eats this or God eats that. But I do know that since we were created in His image and likeness, there is a possibility, right, that since we eat for sustenance, He would also need to eat. But then, God is spirit, and He Himself is sustenance. Without Him, we can do nothing. So whether we eat, whether we drink, or whatever it is that we do, we are doing it because He empowers us or He strengthens us. So because He is the sustenance, He actually does not need anything, not even food, to sustain. You might, however, argue that the Old Testament, books like Genesis, Numbers, Leviticus, are filled with sacrifices offered to God as offerings, and that you would also find verses like in Numbers 28 where the Lord mentions that the children of Israel be commanded to bring these offerings to Him as food, that they are pleasing to Him. And you would also find out that in some of these verses that it is mentioned there that they are of a sweet aroma and they are pleasing to Him. In fact, in the book of Genesis, Noah offered a sacrifice to the Lord, taking of every kind of animal that were with him in the ark, and he presented them to the Lord as a sacrifice. And the Bible told us that the Lord smelt this aroma, and it was pleasing to Him, and he promised that He would never again destroy the world with a flood. Yes, so there were all of this scattered all over the Old Testament, but then do they now mean that God eats sacrifices? In the New Testament, we would see in the book of Romans chapter 12, verse 1, where we are beseeched or where we are enjoined to present our bodies as living sacrifices, holy and acceptable unto the Lord, which is our reasonable service. So in the New Testament, they were giving sacrifices, and then in the Old Testament, we present our bodies as living sacrifices to the Lord. In both, in the Old and in the New, it doesn't categorically mean that God eats these things, but it means that they bring Him delight, they please Him. So if you really do want to offer a sacrifice or an offering unto the Lord that will bring Him pleasure, then you give your life, just as they were giving sacrifices or offering animals to Him in the Old Testament. So our lives as a form of worship, our praise, our thanksgiving are things that bring delight to the Lord. So it is not as if He literally eats them. Because even when it comes to the issue of praise, the Bible says He inhabits the praises of His people, which means that, the praises of His people bring Him delight. The praises of His people bring pleasure to Him. So when next it crosses your mind to ask the question, what does God eat? God does not eat anything literally. He does not eat anything literally. He sustains Himself. And then if we now want to consider the book of John chapter 4, verse 34, that I did mention earlier, that one of the people who participated gave as an answer to what God eats. When Jesus was asked, He mentioned there, He said, my meat is to do the will of the one who sent me and to finish. So, basically, if we're talking about what God eats in the spiritual sense, we're talking about what pleases God. And what pleases God is when we do his will, when we walk according to his precepts, when we follow his instructions, we are bringing pleasure to the Lord. So in a spiritual sense of it, we can say that what God eats is we doing his will, is we bringing pleasure to him with our lifestyle of worship, whether it be in praise, whether it be in giving, whatever it is. Those are what he eats spiritually, because they bring him pleasure. But it is not as if without those things he will not be God. None of the things he created makes him more of a God that he is, and none of the things that he has created will make him less of the God that he already is. He is God not because of things. He is God not because of the things we do. Whether we do more of them or less of them will not make him more God or less God. So he doesn't live on them. He doesn't dwell on them. Just like if we do not eat, we might die. No, that is not how it is when it comes to God. So literally, God does not need anything for him to be sustained. But these things that we offer to him, whether praise, worship, or doing his will, all bring him pleasure. I hope you've been able to pick a thing or two from today's question that we have tackled. If you've got more contributions, we would love to learn from you. Please join us on Facebook. The page is Deliberate Christian Life. And if you've got any question around the Christian faith, we would love to tackle them and answer them by the grace of God. Have a blessed time till I see you again. Bye.